The game begins with pawn to d4 from Lasker, and Schlechter mirrors with pawn to d5. Lasker plays pawn to c4, offering the queen's gambit, and Schlechter responds with pawn to c6, entering the Slav defense. Knight to f3 develops a piece with central control, and black mirrors with knight to f6. Pawn to e3 keeps the position flexible, and Schlechter plays pawn to g6, preparing a fianchetto of the dark-squared bishop. Knight to c3 continues development, and bishop to g7 completes black's fianchetto setup. Bishop to d3 develops toward the king side, and black castles king side, bringing the king to safety. Queen to c2 prepares to support central operations, and knight to a6 develops black's last minor piece, though to the rim. Pawn to a3, a subtle prophylactic move, preventing any future knight jumps to b4. Schlechter responds by capturing on c4 with pawn takes c4, gaining space and challenging white's center. Instead of pawn to a3, Lasker could have castled immediately, but this little pawn move keeps more tension and prevents black's pieces from finding ideal squares. Bishop takes c4 recaptures the pawn, and black pushes pawn to b5, challenging the bishop immediately. Bishop retreats to d3, and pawn to b4 continues black's aggressive queenside expansion. Knight to a4 repositions the knight to avoid being pushed around, and pawn takes a3 accepts the challenge. Pawn takes a3 recaptures, and bishop to b7 develops the light-squared bishop on the long diagonal. Rook to b1 activates the rook on the half-open b file, and queen to c7 centralizes black's queen. Knight to e5 Lasker plants his knight in the center, eyeing key squares like f7 and d7. Schlechter reacts with knight to e5, an unusual retreat to avoid trades. Instead of knight to e5, Lasker could have castled first to complete development, but he wants to seize the initiative immediately before black consolidates. Pawn to g4, a bold attacking move, gaining space on the king side and threatening to trap the knight on h5. Black responds with bishop takes e5, trading off white's strong centralized knight. Lasker could have maintained tension with a quieter move like castling, but he wants to launch an immediate attack against black's somewhat exposed king position. Pawn takes h5 captures the knight, and bishop to g7 returns the bishop to its fianchetto square. Pawn takes g6 opens lines toward black's king, and pawn takes g6 forces black to recapture. Queen to c4 activates the queen with pressure on f7, and bishop to c8 retreats to defend. Rook to g1 brings the rook into the attack, and queen to a 5 check forces white to respond. Bishop to d2 blocks the check, and queen to d5 centralizes black's queen, offering a queen trade. Rook to c1 prepares operations on the c-file, and bishop to b7 returns to the long diagonal. Queen to c2 declines the queen trade, and queen to h5 shifts to the king side, targeting the h2 pawn. Bishop takes g6, a dramatic sacrifice, offering the bishop to expose black's king. Black accepts with queen takes h2, grabbing material, but allowing white's attack to intensify. Lasker could have played more conservatively with moves like f3 to defend, but he sees that black's king is becoming dangerously exposed and wants to keep up maximum pressure. Rook to f1 centralizes the rook, and pawn takes g6 recaptures the bishop, eliminating the immediate threat. Queen to b3 check forces black's king into the open, and rook to f7 blocks while developing. Queen takes b7 grabs the bishop, and rook to f8 brings the second rook into play. Queen to b3 retreats, and king to h8 moves the king to relative safety on the back rank. Pawn to f4 advances the attack, and pawn to g5 creates counterplay against white's advancing pawns. Queen to d3 centralizes the queen, and pawn takes f4 captures, opening lines. Pawn takes f4 recaptures, and queen to h4 check forces the white king to move. King to e2 steps forward, and queen to h2 check continues the checks. Rook to f2 blocks the check, and queen to h5 check forces yet another response. Rook to f3 defends while keeping the rook active, and knight to c7 repositions. Black's knight toward the center. Rook takes c6, Lasker sacrifices the exchange, winning a crucial pawn and exposing black's position further. Schlechter plays knight to b5, attacking the queen and trying to create threats. Instead of rook takes c6, Lasker could have maintained material equality with quiet moves, but he correctly calculates that the exposed black king and weak pawns are more important than material count. Rook to c4 retreats while maintaining pressure, and rook takes f4 wins back material. Bishop takes f4 recaptures, and rook takes f4 recaptures again, restoring material balance. Rook to c8 check drives the bishop away, and bishop to f8 blocks the check. King to f2 centralizes the king, and queen to h2 check forces another king move. King to E1 steps back, and queen to H1 check continues the checking sequence. Rook to F1 blocks and offers a queen trade, and queen to H4 check keeps up the pressure. King to D2 walks toward the center, and rook takes F1 wins the exchange. Queen takes F1 recaptures, and queen takes D4 check grabs a pawn with check. Queen to D3 centralizes while offering a queen trade, and queen to F2 check declines and keeps checking. King to D1 retreats, and knight to D6 centralizes black's knight, improving its position. Rook to C5 activates the rook on the 5th rank, and bishop to 6 repositions to attack from the side. Rook to D5 attacks the knight, and king to G8 moves the king to a safer square. Knight to C5 attacks the knight on D6, and queen to G1 check forces the white king to move again. King to C2 centralizes the king, and queen to C1 check continues the checking pattern. King to B3 walks up the board, and bishop to G7 returns to the long diagonal. Knight to E6, Lasker's knight leaps forward, attacking the bishop and controlling key central squares. Schlechter responds with queen to B2 check, trying to create counterplay. Instead of knight to E6, Lasker could have played more slowly with moves like queen B3, but the knight jump creates immediate tactical threats and puts black on the defensive. King to A4 escapes the check, and king to F7 brings black's king toward the center. Knight takes G7 wins the bishop, and queen takes G7 recaptures. Queen to B3 activates the queen, and king to E8 retreats to the back rank. Queen to B8 check forces the king out, and king to F7 steps forward. Queen takes A7, grabs the A-pawn, and queen to G4 check counterattacks the white king. Queen to D4 centralizes with a discovered threat, and queen to D7 check forces a king move. King to B3 escapes, and queen to B7 check continues harassing white's king. King to A2 moves to safety, and queen to C6 centralizes black's queen. Queen to D3 maintains central control, and king to E6 activates black's king. Rook to G5 swings to the king side, and king to D7 retreats. Rook to E5 centralizes the rook, and queen to G2 check forces a rook block. Rook to E2 blocks, and keeps the rook active, and queen to G4 maintains pressure. Rook to D2 supports the queen, and queen to A4 moves to the side. Queen to F5, check. Lasker's queen swoops in with check, forcing black's king to retreat. King to C, 7 steps away from the center. Instead of queen to F5 check, Lasker could have played queen F3 to maintain central control, but the check forces black into a worse position immediately and prepares to trade queens favorably. Queen to C2 check forces a queen trade, and queen takes C2 check accepts the trade. Rook takes C2, check recaptures with check, and king to B6 moves toward the center. Rook to E2 prepares to support the passed pawn, and knight to C8 repositions defensively. King to B3 activates the white king, and king to C6 centralizes black's king. Rook to C2 check drives the king back, and king to B7 retreats. King to B4 marches forward, and knight to A7 repositions to block the advancing king. King to C5, the final move of this extraordinary endgame. Lasker's king marches to C5, dominating the position completely. Black cannot prevent white's king from supporting the passed pawn, and the rook on C2 controls the entire position. Schlechter resigned here, recognizing that the position is completely hopeless. White's king will march to B6, the A-pawn will advance unstoppably, and black's pieces are completely tied down. This victory was crucial for Lasker's defense of his world championship title, showcasing his legendary endgame technique and psychological mastery. What appeared to be a complex tactical battle transformed into a technical endgame win, demonstrating why Lasker remained world champion for 27 years.